Shattered Vows. A story of betrayal and redemption. Chapter 1. The Discovery. Linda Morrison had always considered herself fortunate. After 12 years of marriage to Mitchell, she had built what she believed was an unshakable life, a beautiful colonial home in the suburbs, a successful career as a pediatric nurse, and a husband who, until 6 months ago, had been her best friend. But on this particular Tuesday evening, as autumn rain drummed against the kitchen windows, her world was about to fracture in ways she never imagined possible. The text message came through while she was preparing dinner. Mitchell's phone, left carelessly on the counter while he showered upstairs, lit up with a notification. Linda wouldn't normally look. Privacy had always been sacred in their marriage, but the preview made her blood run cold. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. When can we meet again? M. Her hands trembled as she picked up the phone. The letter M could mean anyone, she told herself. But deep in her gut, she knew. She knew with a certainty that made her knees weak and her heart race. She unlocked his phone. The password was still their anniversary date, a detail that would later seem painfully ironic, and opened the messages. What she found was worse than any nightmare. Months of messages between Mitchell and Marie, Marcus's wife, her sister-in-law. The woman Linda had welcomed into family dinners, confided in about her struggles with infertility, laughed with at countless gatherings. The messages were explicit, detailing encounters at hotels, stolen afternoons when Linda was at work, and plans for a future together. "We just need to wait for the right time," one of Mitchell's messages read. "Once I get my inheritance settled, we can be together. Start fresh somewhere new." Linda's vision blurred with tears. The shower shut off upstairs, and she heard Mitchell humming, actually humming, as he moved around the bathroom. How could he be so cavalier? How could he destroy everything they'd built and still whistle cheerfully as if nothing had changed? She took screenshots. Years of watching crime dramas had taught her that much. Evidence. She would need evidence. Then she carefully placed the phone back exactly where it had been, turned off the stove, and walked upstairs to their bedroom. Mitchell emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, his dark hair still damp. He smiled at her. That same smile that had made her fall in love with him at 23, and for a moment, she almost doubted what she'd seen. "Almost. Smells good down there," he said. "I'm starving." "Who's M?" The words came out before she could stop them, flat and cold. His smile faltered. For just a second, genuine fear flashed across his face before he recovered, forcing a confused expression. "What?" "M who texted you saying, last night was incredible." "Who is M?" "Mitchell." "Linda, I don't know what you're talking about." His voice was too smooth, too practiced. How many times had he lied to her with that same tone? "Marie. Her name is Marie. Your brother's wife. The woman you've been sleeping with for God knows how long." Linda's voice cracked, but she refused to cry. Not yet, not in front of him. The color drained from Mitchell's face. "You went through my phone? That's what you're concerned about? Privacy?" Linda laughed bitterly. "Yes, Mitchell. I saw your phone light up with a message from your mistress. I read the messages. All of them. Every disgusting detail of how you've been betraying me, betraying Marcus, betraying your entire family." Mitchell sat heavily on the edge of the bed. For a moment, she thought he might try to deny it further, but instead, he buried his face in his hands. "Linda, I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to." "Don't." She held up her hand. "Don't you dare try to minimize this. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Every single day, you made the choice to betray me. We can work through this," Mitchell said, looking up at her with pleading eyes. "Couples therapy, whatever you need. I'll end it with Marie. It's you I love, Linda. It's always been you." Linda shook her head slowly. "No, we're done. I want you out of this house. Tonight. This is my house too," Mitchell said, his tone shifting to something harder. "You can't just kick me out. Watch me." "And Mitchell?" She met his eyes with a steely gaze she didn't know she possessed. "Marcus is going to know everything by morning. Your parents too. Everyone is going to know exactly what kind of man you are." Chapter 2. The Aftermath. The next day, Linda sat in Marcus's living room, the home he'd shared with Marie for 8 years, watching her brother-in-law's world crumble just as hers had. Marcus was Mitchell's younger brother by 3 years. A successful architect with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor that had always seemed at odds with his imposing 6'2" frame. "I kept thinking there had to be some mistake," Marcus said, his voice hollow as he stared at the screenshots Linda had forwarded to him. Marie's been distant lately, but I thought it was work stress. She got that promotion 6 months ago, and I figured she was just overwhelmed. 6 months ago. The same time the affair had started, according to the messages. I'm so sorry, Marcus, Linda said softly. I wish I didn't have to be the one to tell you. Marcus set his phone down and leaned back against the couch, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Do you know what the worst part is? I thought Mitchell and I were close. We talked every week. We played basketball every Sunday morning. How could he do this? How could he look me in the eye and, his voice broke. Linda moved closer and squeezed his hand. They sat in silence for several minutes, two people united in their devastation. What are you going to do? Marcus finally asked. I've already contacted a divorce attorney. Jennifer Hollis, she's supposedly the best in the state. I have an appointment tomorrow morning. Linda paused. You should probably do the same. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, I will. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Linda saw her own pain reflected in his eyes. We're going to get through this, right? We have to, Linda said, though she wasn't entirely sure she believed it. That evening, Linda called Mitchell's parents. Eleanor and Richard Morrison had been her second family for 12 years, treating her like the daughter they'd never had. This conversation would shatter them too, but they deserved to know the truth. Eleanor answered on the second ring. Linda, darling, I was just thinking about you. Richard and I were hoping you and Mitchell could come to dinner this weekend. It's been too long since. Eleanor, I need to tell you something, Linda interrupted gently. And it's not easy to hear. By the time she finished explaining, Eleanor was crying softly. Richard had taken the phone, his usually jovial voice tight with barely controlled emotion. Are you certain? Richard asked. I don't doubt you, Linda, but this is so unlike Mitchell. Are you absolutely sure there's no misunderstanding? I'm sure. I saw the messages. Months of them. He admitted it. Linda's throat tightened. I'm so sorry to bring this to you. I know how much you love both your sons. We love you too, Richard said firmly. Linda, you've been part of this family for over a decade. Whatever happens between you and Mitchell, that doesn't change. Do you understand? Linda nodded, even though they couldn't see her. Thank you. We need to speak with both our sons, Richard continued. This is unconscionable. Both of them, in our family. How could they? After they hung up, Linda sat in her kitchen, she reminded herself, since Mitchell had moved to his friend's spare room, and finally let herself cry. Great, heaving sobs that shook her entire body. 12 years of building a life, of planning for children, of believing in forever. All destroyed by the two people who should have been the least likely to betray them. It's about the money. It's always been about the money. Over the next 2 weeks, Linda's prediction proved accurate. Mitchell hired an attorney, not one of the better ones in the city, she noted, probably because he couldn't afford the retainer, and immediately filed a response contesting the divorce. His attorney argued that the marriage could be saved with counseling, that Linda was acting rashly, that they owed it to their years together to try reconciliation. He's stalling, Jennifer told Linda during their second meeting. He's hoping to delay the divorce until after the trust distributes. If he's technically still married, even if separated, he might argue he meets the trust requirements. Can he do that? We won't let him. I've already reached out to the trustee and provided documentation of the adultery. The grandfather's intent was clearly to support stable, faithful marriages. Mitchell's actions violate the spirit of the trust, even if he's technically still married. Meanwhile, Marcus was pursuing his own divorce with equal determination. His attorney, David Chen, was known for his aggressive tactics and his impressive win record. Marcus and Linda found themselves meeting regularly, comparing notes on their legal strategies, supporting each other through the darkest moments. Mitchell showed up at my office yesterday, Marcus told Linda one evening over coffee. They'd fallen into a routine of meeting twice a week, finding solace in their shared experience. He wanted to explain. Can you believe that? He actually thought he could explain why he slept with my wife. What did you say? I told him to get out before I did something we'd both regret. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. He's my brother, Linda. Was my brother. I don't even know anymore. How do you reconcile that the person you grew up with, who you trusted completely, could do something like this? Linda didn't have an answer. She'd been asking herself the same question every day. I'll know why. The trust. You're terrified of losing that money. That's not. Don't lie. Not here, not anymore. Richard's voice was firm. Your grandfather left that money to support stable, loving marriages. You've made a mockery of that. As executor of his estate, I have a responsibility to honor his wishes. Mitchell's head snapped up. What are you saying? I'm saying that your mother and I have discussed this at length with the trustee. We're recommending that your share of the inheritance be denied based on your violation of the trust's intent. The room fell silent. Linda watched the color drain from Mitchell's face, replaced by a mottled red as anger took over. You can't do that, Mitchell said, his voice low and dangerous. That's my inheritance. Grandfather left it to me. He left it to support your marriage, Eleanor said. A marriage you destroyed. The money was never meant to reward infidelity. This is because of her, isn't it? Mitchell gestured at Linda. She's poisoned you against me. She's always been jealous of my relationship with you both. Don't you dare, Marcus said, his voice deadly quiet. Linda has been nothing but gracious through this nightmare. You're the one who threw away this family. Mitchell stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Fine. If that's how you all want it. Choose her over your own son. But don't come crying to me when you realize you've made a mistake. He stormed out, slamming the front door hard enough to rattle the windows. In the silence that followed, Eleanor began to cry softly. Richard moved to comfort her, and Linda felt her own tears building. I'm sorry, Linda whispered. I'm so sorry this has torn your family apart. This isn't your fault, Richard said firmly. Mitchell made his choices. He has to live with the consequences. But as Linda drove home that night, she couldn't shake the image of Mitchell's face, the rage barely contained beneath the surface. She'd seen something in his eyes that frightened her. Something desperate and dangerous. Chapter 5. Escalation. The restraining order was Marcus's idea. After Mitchell had shown up at Linda's workplace 3 times in 1 week, demanding to talk to her, Marcus had insisted she file for protection. He's becoming unstable, Marcus told her. I know he's my brother, but right now, I don't trust what he might do. Linda's attorney agreed, and within a week, a judge had issued a temporary restraining order requiring Mitchell to stay at least 500 feet away from Linda, her home, and her workplace. Mitchell's response came through his attorney, a furious letter claiming Linda was being vindictive and cruel, that she was using the legal system to punish him for a mistake. But Linda slept better knowing there was a legal barrier between them. She and Marcus had grown closer through the ordeal. What had started as shared grief had evolved into genuine friendship. They met for coffee, took walks in the park, talked for hours about everything and nothing. Marcus made her laugh again, something Linda hadn't thought possible. He listened when she needed to vent, offered perspective when she felt lost, and never once made her feel like a burden. Thank you, Linda said one evening as they sat on her back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. For what? Marcus asked. For being here. For understanding. She paused, searching for words. For making me believe that maybe someday I'll be okay again. Marcus turned to look at her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. Linda, he stopped, shaking his head. Never mind. What? Nothing. It's too soon, and it's complicated, and, he stood abruptly. I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. After he left, Linda sat in the growing darkness, trying to understand the flutter in her chest when Marcus looked at her. It was too soon, she told herself. Way too soon to feel anything for anyone, especially her soon-to-be ex-husband's brother. But she couldn't deny that something was changing between them. Something that felt both terrifying and right. Chapter 6. Breaking Point. The sound of shattering glass woke Linda at 2 in the morning. She sat bolt upright in bed, heart pounding, straining to hear. For a moment, there was only silence. Then she heard it, footsteps downstairs, the creak of floorboards in the hallway. Someone was in her house. With shaking hands, Linda grabbed her phone and dialed 911, whispering her address to the dispatcher. Someone broke into my house. I'm upstairs in the master bedroom. I think they're still downstairs. Officers are on their way, ma'am. Stay on the line with me. Have you locked your bedroom door? Linda crept to the door and turned the lock as quietly as possible. Yes. Good. Stay away from the door and... The footsteps were coming up the stairs now. Heavy, deliberate. Linda backed into the corner of her room, phone clutched in one hand, a table lamp in the other. Not much of a weapon, but it was all she had. Linda, Mitchell's voice, slurred and angry. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Ma'am, do you recognize the intruder's voice? The dispatcher asked. It's my husband, Linda whispered. Mitchell Morrison. There's a restraining order against him. The doorknob rattled. Open the door, Linda. This is still my house. You can't just lock me out of my own house. Mitchell, go away. The police are coming. I don't care. We need to talk. You can't just throw away 12 years because of one mistake. He pounded on the door. Let me in. Linda could hear sirens in the distance, growing closer. Mitchell must have heard them too because his pounding became more frantic. You called the cops? You called the cops on me? I'm your husband. You're not allowed to be here. There's a restraining order. Screw the restraining order. You're my wife. We took vows, Linda. For better or worse. You don't just get to quit. The sound of splintering wood made Linda scream. Mitchell was breaking down the door. She could see his shoulder ramming against it, the frame beginning to give way. Then she heard new voices downstairs. Police, come out with your hands up. Linda, Mitchell's voice was desperate now. Please, just talk to me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sir, step away from the door. Step away now. Linda heard scuffling, Mitchell shouting, the sound of something hitting the wall. Then blessed silence except for the static of the dispatcher's voice asking if she was okay. Officers came upstairs moments later, checking on her, assuring her the intruder had been arrested. Linda sank onto her bed, shaking uncontrollably. Ma'am, that's your husband, one of the officers asked gently. The restraining order is on file. We're taking him into custody. He'll be charged with breaking and entering, violation of a restraining order, and attempted assault. Linda nodded, unable to speak. How had it come to this? How had the man she'd married become someone who would break into her home, terrorize her in the middle of the night? She called Marcus. It was after 3 in the morning, but he answered on the first ring. Linda, what's wrong? Mitchell broke in, she said, her voice cracking. He broke my window and came inside. He tried to break down my bedroom door. The police arrested him, but Marcus, I was so scared. I'm coming over. Stay on the phone with me. I'm getting in my car right now. Marcus stayed with her the rest of the night, sitting beside her on the couch, letting her talk or cry or sit in silence as she needed. As dawn broke through the windows, Linda rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus wrapped his arm around her. Always. I'll always be here for you. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Maybe someday I'll forgive them enough to not hate them. But trust them again? Be part of their lives? No. Some betrayals are just too deep. 3 days after Mitchell's arrest, Richard Morrison called with disturbing news. Your mother and I came home from our trip to find the house had been broken into, he told Linda and Marcus, who were both on speakerphone. Several valuable antiques are missing. The Victorian clock from the foyer, your grandmother's silver tea service, some expensive artwork. The police estimate at least $50,000 in stolen goods. Dad, that's terrible, Marcus said. Did they get any leads? Security footage? No footage. We've always felt safe in this neighborhood. But Linda, I need to tell you something else. The police found fresh damage to the window in Mitchell's old bedroom. They think the intruder came in that way because it wouldn't be visible from the street. Linda's blood ran cold. You think Mitchell did this? I don't want to think it, Richard said heavily. But the timing, the method of entry, the specific items taken, they're all pieces he knew were valuable. The detective wants to search his apartment. But Mitchell's apartment search required a warrant, which required probable cause. The case stalled as police built their evidence. Meanwhile, Mitchell's bail was revoked due to the suspected involvement in the burglary, and he was back in custody. It was Marcus who had the breakthrough. He'd gone to Mitchell's apartment to collect some items. They were still technically brothers, and despite everything, Marcus felt obligated to handle practical matters. The landlord let him in with Mitchell's permission. I just need to grab some clothes for him, Marcus told the landlord. Court appearances and all that. But once inside, Marcus noticed something odd. A large blanket covered something in the corner of the living room. Something that hadn't been there the last time he'd visited. Carefully, Marcus pulled back the blanket. There, stacked haphazardly, were the missing antiques. The Victorian clock, its face cracked. His grandmother's tea service, tarnished and carelessly wrapped in newspaper. The paintings leaning against the wall. Marcus took photos and immediately called the police. Within an hour, detectives were at the apartment, documenting everything. Mitchell had stolen from his own parents, the people who had raised him and loved him, all because they'd supported Linda and Marcus. It's like I don't even know who he is anymore, Marcus told Linda that evening. They were sitting in his living room, trying to process this latest revelation. The Mitchell I grew up with would never steal from our parents. He would never break into someone's home in the middle of the night. What happened to him? Desperation, Linda said, and entitlement. He thought he deserved that inheritance money. Thought he deserved to keep me regardless of what I wanted. When he couldn't get what he felt entitled to, he lashed out. Marcus shook his head. Mom's devastated. She keeps saying she feels like she lost a son. I'm sorry. Linda reached for his hand. I know this is all so much harder for you. He's your brother. Was my brother. Marcus squeezed her hand. The brother I knew wouldn't have done any of this. That person is gone. Maybe he was never really there at all. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. Mitchell's trial was set for 6 months away, but the evidence was overwhelming. His attorney advised him to take a plea deal, 5 years for burglary, breaking and entering, and violating the restraining order. Mitchell, perhaps finally realizing the magnitude of what he'd done, accepted. The divorce proceedings moved forward swiftly after that. With Mitchell in custody and facing prison time, his attorney withdrew the contest. The divorce was finalized 3 months after Mitchell's arrest, and Linda found herself officially single for the first time in 12 years. How does it feel? Marcus asked. They were sitting in the same coffee shop where they'd first met all those months ago to discuss their respective divorces. Weird, Linda admitted. Free, but weird, like I should feel something more profound, but mostly I just feel relieved. That's normal, Marcus said. His own divorce from Marie had been finalized 2 weeks earlier. It's not the ending you imagined, so there's grief. But there's also liberation. Yeah, Linda smiled at him. Liberation. I like that. Over the months, something had shifted between them. The friendship born of shared trauma had deepened into something neither of them had expected. Linda found herself thinking about Marcus at odd moments, looking forward to their coffee dates with an anticipation that felt distinctly unlike friendship. She knew Marcus felt it too. She saw it in the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, in the way he always found excuses to touch her hand or shoulder, in the way he smiled when she walked into a room. But neither of them had acknowledged it. The situation was complicated. They were former in-laws, both still healing from devastating betrayals. Starting something felt risky, premature, potentially disastrous. It was Eleanor Morrison who finally pushed them together. She'd invited both Linda and Marcus to Sunday dinner, something that had become a regular occurrence, and as they were leaving, she'd pulled Linda aside. That boy is in love with you, Eleanor said bluntly. And unless I'm very much mistaken, you feel the same. Linda felt her cheeks flush. Eleanor, it's complicated. Marcus is Mitchell's brother. People would talk, they'd judge. Let them talk. Let them judge. Eleanor took Linda's hands in hers. Linda, you and Marcus have both been through hell. You've supported each other, been there for each other. You deserve happiness. Both of you. Don't let fear or what other people might think rob you of that. What if it doesn't work out? What if we try this and it ruins everything? What if it does work out? Eleanor smiled. What if you spend the rest of your lives wondering, what if, instead of taking a chance on something beautiful? That night, Linda couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Eleanor's words, about the way her heart raced when Marcus smiled at her, about how empty her days felt when they weren't together. At midnight, she gave up pretending she'd find sleep. She got dressed and drove to Marcus's house. His car was in the driveway, lights on in the living room. She knocked before she could lose her nerve. Marcus opened the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair rumpled like he'd been running his hands through it. Linda, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Your mother thinks you're in love with me, Linda blurted out. Marcus froze. What? She told me tonight, said I should stop being afraid and take a chance. Linda laughed nervously. And she's right, I am afraid. This is terrifying, Marcus. But I'm more afraid of not trying. I'm more afraid of losing you because I was too scared to tell you that she took a breath. That I'm in love with you too. For a moment, Marcus just stared at her. Then he stepped forward, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her. It was gentle and passionate and perfect, and Linda felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. I've wanted to do that for months, Marcus said when they finally broke apart. But I didn't want to rush you. Didn't want to take advantage when you were vulnerable. You're not taking advantage. You're the one good thing that came from all this mess. Linda wrapped her arms around his neck. I know people will judge. I know it's complicated, but I don't care anymore. Life's too short to not grab happiness when you find it. Marcus kissed her again, then pulled her inside and closed the door on the cold night air. Chapter 9. Justice and Closure. The Morrison family attended Mitchell's sentencing together, Richard, Eleanor, Marcus, and Linda. It felt right to be there as a united front, to see this chapter finally close. Mitchell looked smaller somehow in his orange jumpsuit, his shoulders hunched as the judge read his sentence. 5 years in state prison for burglary, breaking and entering, and violating a restraining order, with the possibility of parole after 3 years if he demonstrated good behavior and completed rehabilitation programs. Mr. Morrison, the judge said, looking down at Mitchell with stern eyes. You have systematically betrayed everyone who loved you. You cheated on your wife, betrayed your brother, stole from your parents, and terrorized Ms. Morrison in her own home. These actions show a pattern of entitled, narcissistic behavior that requires serious intervention. I hope you use your time in prison to reflect on the pain you've caused and to become a better man. But that's up to you. Mitchell said nothing, his head down. As the guards led him away, he glanced back once at his family. Linda saw no remorse in his eyes, only resentment. Outside the courthouse, Richard put his arm around Eleanor. It's done, he said quietly. He made his choices. Now he has to live with them. I still love him, Eleanor said, tears streaming down her face. He's my son, but I don't like him very much right now. That's fair, Marcus said gently. Love and approval are different things. The trustee officially denied Mitchell's share of the inheritance the following week, citing his violation of the trust's intent to support stable, faithful marriages. The money went to charity instead, funding scholarships for underprivileged children, something Mitchell's grandfather would have approved of. Marcus received his full share, and in a gesture that surprised everyone, he used part of it to help Richard and Eleanor replace the stolen antiques and repair the damage to their home. Family takes care of family, Marcus said when Richard tried to refuse. Real family, the kind that shows up and supports each other. That's what you and Mom did for Linda and me. This is just me returning the favor. Linda watched this exchange and felt her love for Marcus deepen. He was everything Mitchell had pretended to be, honorable, kind, genuine. Epilogue. 2 years later. Linda stood in front of the full-length mirror in her childhood bedroom, adjusting the simple white dress she'd chosen for today. It wasn't a traditional wedding gown, she'd done that once before, and it hadn't worked out. This time, she wanted something that reflected who she'd become, stronger, wiser, more sure of herself. Her mother knocked and entered, carrying a small bouquet of wildflowers. You look beautiful, sweetheart. Thanks, Mom. Linda took the flowers, inhaling their fresh scent. Is it weird that I'm not nervous? Not weird at all. You're sure about Marcus? You've been sure for a while now. Linda smiled. That was true. Over the past 2 years, she and Marcus had built something real and solid. They'd taken their time, going to couples counseling even before they needed it, talking through their fears and insecurities, making sure they were building a foundation that would last. They'd faced judgment from some people, former friends who thought their relationship was inappropriate or too soon, but they'd weathered it together. Marcus had sold his house, too many memories of Marie, and they'd bought a new place together. A fresh start in every way. Linda had returned to work full-time, finding joy again in caring for her young patients. Marcus's architecture firm had landed several major contracts, and he was thriving professionally. They'd even started talking about children. Linda was 36 now, and while there was still time, they both wanted to start trying soon. The thought no longer filled her with the anxiety it once had. With Marcus, she could imagine the future clearly, a future filled with possibility instead of dread. Linda? Her father appeared in the doorway. Marcus is getting antsy. I think he's afraid you might change your mind. Linda laughed. Tell him I'll be down in 5 minutes. And Dad? Thank you. For everything. For supporting me through the divorce, for welcoming Marcus, for giving me away again even though the first time didn't work out. Her father's eyes misted. The first time wasn't your fault, sweetheart. You deserve this happiness. You both do. The ceremony was small and intimate. Just close friends and family in Eleanor and Richard's backyard, the same place where Linda had attended countless Morrison family gatherings over the years. But this time felt different. This time, she was choosing to be here, choosing this family, choosing Marcus. Eleanor had decorated the space beautifully with white lights strung through the trees and simple flower arrangements on each table. She'd embraced Linda and Marcus's relationship wholeheartedly, telling anyone who would listen that she'd gained a daughter and was thrilled her son had found someone who truly understood him. As Linda walked down the makeshift aisle on her father's arm, she saw Marcus waiting for her under the wooden arbor, and her heart swelled. He looked handsome in his gray suit, his eyes bright with unshed tears as he watched her approach. There was such love in his gaze, such pure joy, that Linda felt her own eyes watering. The ceremony was brief and heartfelt. They'd written their own vows, wanting the words to reflect their unique journey. Linda, Marcus began, his voice steady despite his emotion, when my world fell apart, you were there. You understood my pain because you were living through your own. But somewhere in that darkness, we found light in each other. You taught me that betrayal doesn't define us, how we respond to it does. You taught me that it's possible to heal, to trust again, to open your heart even when it's been shattered. I promise to always be worthy of your trust, to protect your heart the way you've protected mine, and to build a life with you that honors both our past pain and our future joy. I choose you, today and every day. Linda wiped her eyes, trying to maintain her composure. Marcus, falling in love with you was unexpected. We both came from broken marriages, both thought we knew what we wanted, what we needed. But you showed me that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unlikely places. You've been my rock, my safe harbor, my best friend. You've shown me what a real partnership looks like, equal, respectful, built on honesty and genuine affection. I promise to always communicate with you, to face our challenges together, and to never take for granted the gift of your love. I choose you, today and always. When the officiant pronounced them married and Marcus kissed her, the small gathering erupted in applause. Linda heard Eleanor's happy sobbing, saw her own mother dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. This was her family now, chosen and earned, built on mutual respect and love rather than obligation.